and the champion for children and education throughout, the Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan.
Thank you so much. And this has been a fascinating 9 months so far. And I think I've been to 33, 34 states so far and literally hundreds of schools. But I will tell you that the school visit that stands out most clearly in my mind was my visit to a school in Montana, northern Cheyenne country. And it was both unbelievably inspiring and it was also devastating. And it's one that is deeply, deeply impacted me. And my staff has been, Greg Darnita's been to North and South Dakota to visit schools. Charlie Rose has been to New Mexico to visit schools. And it's amazing how personally impacted those visits have been for us. I will tell you, I saw students who were smart and capable and wanted to do well. And that was the hopeful part. The devastating part was the lack of opportunity. The subtle and the overt racism they faced, the low expectations they faced, and you could see students as they got a little older starting to give up, and you could see hope starting to fade a little bit in their eyes. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we have to do dramatically better. We have to get dramatically better. If we want to give our children a chance to be successful, the status quo is not going to get us where we need to go. So what do we do? A couple thoughts, and these are profound and deep conversations that we're not going to solve here in an hour. But there are a couple things I want to talk about. One is, as we talk about dramatically improving the quality of education for our young people, we must have a deep respect for native language and native culture. And I think far too often we've tried to strip that away from our children. And if they're not rooted in their heritage, if they're not rooted in their community, our children are lost. And we have to create an environment in which that stays. Secondly, in all the conversations we've had, we've heard repeatedly the tremendous teacher turnover. And teachers come for a year or two, or sometimes 2 months or 3 months, and disappear. So we have to think collectively very, very hard about how we grow our own teachers. How do we grow teachers from the community? How do we grow teachers who are rooted there, who want to come back, where this is not a stepping stone, but this is a life's passion. And we have to think very, very hard about how we create that next generation of teachers to serve our young people. And the only way we do that is if we start to talk to our 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th graders and our freshmen and sophomores in high school about becoming teachers now and create those pipelines. And we're starting to formulate, I think, some pretty interesting ideas about how to do that. There are tremendous capital and infrastructure needs that the Congressman talked about. And we're lucky to have over $400 million that we're going to work with the BIA to work on renovation and rehab and new construction. That we cannot have schools that are second to jails. And as the Congressman talked about, unfortunately, that's often the reality. And so we want to put significant resources there. We have unprecedented resources to increase access to higher education. Billions of dollars in new money for Pell Grants and Perkins loans. And so we have to make sure that every child that works hard and wants to take that next step into higher education has the resources behind them. And the President and a bipartisan Congress have provided extraordinary leadership there. So we want to make a major, major investment already. It's happened through the Recovery Act, over $30 billion there, and through a bill that's passed the House of Representatives before the Senate now, would bring about another $60 billion in increased access. The higher education bill. And so if that goes through, it will dramatically increase those kinds of opportunities. The final thing I'll say is that we have to collaborate and work and behave in some very, very different ways. Everyone here knows the Department of Education historically and the BIA have not worked well together. And this is not a unique challenge. Folks know that historically in early childhood education, the Department of Education and HHS have not worked well together. And I'll say this not just because they're here, but I am absolutely hopeful about the direction we're going. In Kathleen Sebelius and Secretary Salazar, we have extraordinary leaders who have no ego, and all of us just want to do a better job. It's not about whose budget or whose department or who gets the credit. How do we dramatically improve early childhood education? How do we dramatically improve education for all? And I'm absolutely confident that we have collectively the leadership with the will and the lack of ego to do the right thing by children. The final thing I'll say is that one of the inspiring parts about my visit to Montana was that's the only state in the country that has an Indian Education for All curriculum. And I think that's a model that we need to look at very, very closely as we move forward. But these are conversations that have to continue. They have to continue with a real sense of urgency. I look forward to working with you to give our children a much better chance of fulfilling their tremendous academic and social potential. We have to do better. Thank you.